Well, Catherine is not with us today. Unfortunately, she caught the flu. But there really isn't much from us today. I was actually going to start by introducing our operator of the month, which is Personal Nursing Lighthouse. Is anyone on from Personal Nursing Lighthouse right now? I think Joe was supposed to be on. Give another minute. Anyone here from Personal Nursing Lighthouse?
That's
Oh,
me. Oh,
there's Joe.
hi. Hi, Kayla.
Congratulations. You guys are operator of the month. Can you
Yay.
can you tell us a little bit about your program?
Thank you. Personalized Nursing Lighthouse has been in business since 1990, and we offer a continuum of care, including withdrawal management, residential services, and something called intensive outpatient program with domicile. That's been really our main program level of care, which that domicile is the recovery housing units. And so since 1990, we recognized recovery housing as an important ingredient in a successful, for many people, successful recovery journey. And so right now we have about 28, don't quote me on that, 28 housing units, about five or six houses we own, and the rest are in apartments that we lease. We provide the furniture, etc., and we have all the requirements that MARR has guided us upon and in those units. And it's been a wonderful opportunity for the clients to have a place where if they come from other treatment centers, they can get outpatient support with us, but also have their a place to stay, have roommates, find employment, and what we like to call something positive picture possible. Like I can live with some roommates, I can get this apartment, I can afford this. It is possible, and then they have the experience to do so, both with the vision, but also the exercising the recovery muscle by being independent in that housing.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys have been certified for a few years now, and I know Catherine was very, very pleased with her site review this year. She said you guys did an amazing job. Usually it takes about 2 days to get through all of your homes, but it only took one. And she's fed right
Yeah,
through. You guys did an amazing job.
and that's a big thanks because I don't do much with that. It's Jackie Anderson who's also on
Right.
here, and
Yep.
she's responsible for doing everything with the housing, so she gets the kudos. So
That's
thank
awesome. Thank
I
you.
have a quick question of you, Joe. If you know, is there a different rate that the PIHP pays for the with domicile as opposed to just the regular recovery residence home?
My understanding is the residents, the recovery housing is the same rate, and they just add it to our IOP contract. So, in other words, you get paid for the IOP portion and then the same amount for the recovery housing, but they just put it together.
Okay, it's the same rate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a short answer. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And what area is your organization in?
We're in southeastern Michigan in Plymouth, Canton area, Livonia, Westland.
Any other questions for Joe?
What was the name of it again?
It's
Personalized
called
Nursing Lighthouse.
I'm sorry.
Personalized Nursing Lighthouse.
Okay.
There's some wraparound services offered with their recovery housing, which kind of makes sense.
Mhm. Yep, I think they're by far our largest operator that we have right now. We have some big ones, but I think Personalized Nursing Lighthouse is the largest one.
Uh, I
So,
saw something on my Michigan feed on my computer today that said that the state of Michigan, the opioid litigation task force, is looking to open another 3,500 beds. That's 3,500 additional beds. We've got about 2,600 beds now.
mhm.
So
That'd be
Our
amazing.
collective job is simply to double our capacity.
Yep, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to offer to you folks an opportunity to talk to Chris. Chris is from Minnesota, and he predates my involvement with NAR. It's been around for 10 plus years. One of the old guard folks. Chris has run recovery residences, I think in Colorado and Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and does consulting work for people that run recovery residences, I think in New York and Aspen, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and various other cities. Um, and I had the opportunity to listen to Chris talk at the NAR conference a couple months ago, and it just struck home with me in terms of how not to run a recovery residence like a Nazi, which is that's how I normally do it, and do it with having some compassion and people skills. So, with that introduction, I'd like to have you all pull up a chair and listen to Chris.
Okay. Okay. Um, so how long do you want me to go for here, Jeff?
Oh, 20 minutes maybe,
All
something
right.
like that.
So I guess what I'll do is just kind of focus on the stuff that I've been doing at the NAR conference and my consulting clients who are I just got off the phone with a lady who just retired from the army and she wants to open a sober house. And there's the practical stuff about getting through the city and doing all that stuff. And then once you got the house going and you've got 5, 10, 20 people in a program who are in early recovery and they're expecting something from you, there are a lot of programs who, in my opinion, create so many rules and structure that it's easier just to do that than to try to create an atmosphere and a momentum within the house that makes people feel comfortable and that you want that they're wanted and that they're part of something. And so over the years I have developed a whole bunch of little tips and tricks and things and ways of doing stuff to try to get that. I have a new employee I've brought on last week and I was working with him today. He's older than I am, but he's been around for a long time and he's got a bunch of sponsees and he's a very well-known sort of AA guy in town. And I have a very pretty young population in this house that he's working with me on in the Plus program, it's called. And getting under 25-year-olds interested in the 12 steps is a feat amongst itself. But I would say I'd like to put this to you guys because most of these people or most of you guys are operators of some kind of recovery residence. Is that right?
All of them.
So at some point, you've got a group of people who have a set of expectations. They got to live together. My model is typically single family homes. Everybody shares a room. You can get a single room with seniority. I have one house that has all single rooms, but we have a policy where you can't lock it and it's always open and you can't hide. And the reason I say that is because people in early recovery, like I was joking with Jeff earlier, somebody eats their peanut butter and they want to call the FBI, right? They're sensitive and they're mad and they're demanding and some of them are mostly scared. Some of my residents have done this 14 times. They've been in treatment and they're in yet another sober house. And I just feel like there are things you can do to try to create an atmosphere there and a functionality there where you really end up only dealing with people who really do have a problem and not just constantly putting out fires. Because I think we all know if you ignore your residents, they will make you pay for that. So we do a bunch of little things to try to create that. And on the MASH board on our state affiliate, we had an operator here in town who had a bunch of outpatient stuff, and he opened a bunch of sober houses to fill with his outpatient people. We just had a big lawsuit about that here in Minnesota, so he doesn't have those anymore. But he didn't want to join MASH. And so I called him, and I'm just going to use him as an example. And I called him and I said, "Why don't you include your sober houses in the state affiliate?" And he said, "They're not sober houses. They're part of my IOP." And I said, "Well, what do all the guys who live in the house think they're living in? An IOP house? They thought they were living in a sober house." And in this town, a lot of people are in a sober house. So they're going to go out there and talk to their friends and be like, "What's going on at your house? What's going on at your house?" There's a lot of reputation very quickly. There is an operator here who runs his house as like a military base, and you leave one dish in the sink and you're in trouble, and everybody knows it. And he has trouble filling his beds. If you want to get everybody, if you're struggling in your house to get, or you hear about them at a reasonable level, right? If they don't talk to each other and they don't care about each other, all you hear about is the problems, right? I don't like my room. I don't like my roommate, blah, 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 blah. And so it's never perfect. People are going to eat each other's food. People are going to take too long in the shower. People are going to leave their shit everywhere. But if you can do things that contribute to a sense of the residents that the staff gives a shit. They really kind of care that I'm here. They ask me the right questions. They respond to me in the right way. So here's some more examples. The first thing we do in our house meetings, and usually my houses are somewhere between 8 and 12 people. And you have to be at the house meeting. There is no way that you can miss it. I told the guys last night at one of my houses who were new, if your mom is tied to the railroad tracks and the train is coming, you can miss the meeting. Otherwise, you're in this meeting. And don't ask to miss it. So we get the people, the guys or the girls in the room, and everybody goes around to the manager goes to each person in the room about the compliance stuff, right? We have this book and it has, you can write enough names on the side and it has columns for like, did you go to meetings? Did you go to IOP? Did you attend your whatever you're supposed to do? Did you do your chore? Did you meet with your sponsor? Whatever your requirements are to live in the house. Our requirements are very old school traditional stuff like Minnesota's always had, which is meetings, sponsorship, service work, things like that. Now there's IOP a lot more, it's a lot more common. And so some of our guys we have to ask, did you go? Because we don't know if they went. Um, and we go through the compliance stuff. And I think it's really important to understand that the stuff that we're asking, like I have a bunch of under 25-year-olds in this house, they're gonna miss. We ask them to go to 3 meetings a week, and it's largely a miracle if they all do that. But you have to have an understanding that they're gonna miss meetings, and they're gonna miss things, and they're gonna oversleep for things, and you're never gonna be able to. I don't kick a guy out for missing a meeting. What I would do instead is look at that book every week and say, okay, Jim, you've been, 1 or 2 meetings for the last 3 weeks. What's up? Right? I'd rather have a conversation about a pattern than I would about a punishment for a one-off offense. And if you're going to kick people out for missing a meeting in a house full of under 25-year-old guys, you're not going to have anybody in your house. So the the second thing, which I think is really important, is if we ask them, is there anything you need in your room? Is your lamp broken? Is the fridge not cold? Or is your what's up with the innocuous kind of stuff that doesn't have to do with your sort of general how's your recovery week? How's your week in the house this week? And then you get the innocuous stuff done so that they don't spend time just talking about how their problem with the heat in their room because they will talk about that stuff instead of talking about this important stuff if you let them. So we get it off the table. If somebody has a problem, like they need a lamp or the dresser's broken, I tell my staff, respond to it within 2 days. I want the lamp and the dresser fixed within 24 to 48 hours because I don't want to have them thinking about that anymore. And it really does serve the general attitude that they get a response to things like that quickly and they stop focusing on that. So I have lamps in the garage. We just go get another one. And to the best, just to the degree that you can, respond to those things quickly and take them off of the list. When I was in a sober house myself in 1998, I think it was, my manager was gone for a week and he came back to just chaos. We were all fighting about everything. And he sat down and the house meeting when he got back and I thought, okay, he's gonna fix all this arguing. And he said, just so you guys know, we're not going to talk about who ate my Fruit Loops. We're going to talk about recovery. So forget about all. And everyone was just like, no, shit. We wanted him to fix the bickering, and it's not a thing. It's that you can do. So the response to the maintenance stuff or whatever, it's maintenance or supplies or that kind of stuff that's not really that crucial. And then we go around to each person in the house, and it's your turn to talk about your week. Tell us, give us a synopsis of the last 7 days. You like your job, you hate your boss, you don't, your mom's on your back, you like your new meeting you found. What's up, right? My sponsor's weird, he never calls me back. Whatever the general picture of the 7 days is between the house meetings. And I try to make sure these guys understand that you can tell the truth in this moment and you're not going to get killed for it. Because I would rather have you come to that meeting knowing I can be honest and I'm not going to get in trouble rather than come and try to lie to us. Last night, this kid tried to make up a meeting that he went to that it doesn't exist. And there were too many of us in the room that know most of the meetings in St. Paul and we busted him. But anyway, so after you give your synopsis of the week, and let's just say you say something about your job and your mom and you're just a general sort of synopsis, then the manager of the house, it's their job to say to the rest of the residents in the house, is that what you guys see? Is that what you would say if I asked you what's up with him? Does that jive with what you have seen or heard? And 9 times out of 10, the house will say, if they're honest, the house will be like, yeah, that sounds about right. I was hanging out with him yesterday and he was bitching about his mom or whatever it was. Or the other residents will say, I don't know, I have no idea if any of that is true. He's never here. Or that's all bullshit. I was with him yesterday. He didn't do any of that. He didn't go to any of those meetings. So, not looking to catch you. We're looking to get you to the place where you don't are not afraid to tell the truth about your week in that 1 hour. So there's a little bit of, cajoling to get people to do that because they're really, really, really not used to being transparent anywhere in their life. Their parents, their counselor, they just got out of treatment and they've been lying about everything for the last 6 months. And so I told the guys last night in this house meeting, I would rather you tell us the truth. I didn't go to any meetings. I hate it here. I hate Chris. I hate everything. And that's my truth. And if that's true, it's better than a lie. So weekly, after doing that for a while, you create an atmosphere where that house meeting really kind of matters to the guys. They're like, okay, this is a cool sort of vibe here. We're getting truths. I'm going to get asked about my roommates, which means I got to pay attention. And you'll find out very quickly the people who just don't pay attention to other people and people that overly pay attention and insert themselves into other people's lives and they're always narking on everybody or whatever that dynamic is. It's better than siloed guys who don't talk to each other. So I told these guys last night, because we kind of have a new group, I said, I'm going to be looking for evidence that you guys are talking to each other. And that comes in lots of different ways. If I ask so and so today, I was blowing snow at the parking lot behind the house, and I said to JT, I was like, "What's up with Andre? He seems all bummed out yesterday. He wouldn't talk to anybody." And he knew what was up. It was about a girl, and he knew because they talked about it. I was like, "This is great." So I'm trying to promote that stuff, right? That's not clinical work. It's not 12-step work. It's inclusion is what it is. They feel part of something if you can create that honesty, that transparency, that response to what they ask for. They calm down and they're like a brand new puppy in a smaller space and they're not scared of everything. And they tend to calm down and do less crazy shit. Not everybody, but for the most part. So if you have somebody who we have our chore situation is that there's a thing on the wall that has all of the chores listed and broken down exactly what to do. If you have bathroom two, here's the stuff you need and here's the things you need to do in there so that you don't feel intimidated when it's your turn and you're like, I've never done this before. And you got to go tell somebody I've never cleaned a bathroom in my life. And a lot of my guys have never cleaned a bathroom in their life. So everything is there, and then it's got a glass cover on it. So we use a board marker, and you change up the names. So you erase it and scramble it, and you get a different chore, but it's always up there, and you can always refer to it, and you don't have to ask somebody, so you're embarrassed. But and the other thing is that what you need to do that chore, because this is a big house with 4 bathrooms and like 10 bedrooms and 3 floors, everything you need to do your chore on the third floor is in a bin up there by where you need it. You don't have to go to the supply closet to get it because it just creates another step and you're like, ah. So literally, here, it's right here. Here's the directions, here's the stuff. I don't want you to get embarrassed, but I want you to do your chore. So that's another one. We don't make people sign in and sign out. They have a door code. There's no keys. If you disappear on us, the door code's going to change and you're not going to be able to get back in. And we text everybody else to change to tell them the code. Um, let's see. Okay, here's another one that I really like. For me, and I've recently sold a bunch of my houses. I had 12 of them. So I had a lot of managers that don't live there. And they go, and I liked having some of these staff guys that had 3, 4, 5 years of sobriety because they've seen it all and they're good detectives and they kind of know what's up. And they really like helping people. So I would say, look, I need you to go through the houses and check in on with the house manager and just go check the vibe of the house and see if things are going okay. And I would tell them, if you want to go to a sober house that's flowing and people are doing their thing and you want to have a positive effect, don't go there just to bust somebody, to test somebody. Don't go there just to find somebody who's in trouble. Go there for other reasons, right? Like go at 5 or 6 when everyone's home and they're cooking and they're getting ready to go to a 7 o'clock meeting because that's when meetings start around here, 6 or 7. And the guys that work, they're home trying to scramble to get something to eat and get to a meeting because they have to make 3 a week. And if you want to have an impact, then go at that time when everyone's home. Find out if anybody in the house's friend overdosed or something good happened, somebody got a job or somebody's parents are visiting. And when you get to the house, you can say, hey, man, I heard you got a job. That's great. I heard your mom's coming. I'm sorry about your friend. Because everybody else in the house watches you do that. And they're like, God, he came here and he knew that guy's mom was coming into town and he bothered to say, hey, I hope you have fun with your mom. It's not very difficult to have this information in today's digital world. So if you go to the house to figure out somebody's really doing something nefarious, we go when everyone's gone. If we're going to search your room, we do it when no one's home. So nobody feels like they got their cell flipped, or whatever that's called in prison. If we test somebody we test everyone at the house meetings, and they know they're going to get tested at the house meetings, and we do that on purpose because they're not very good at bullshitting their way through it. If they're trying to cheat a UA, it's kind of obvious to see them. So we do random UAs that they don't know about, but we don't do that in a punitive way. If I'm going to pull you aside to do a UA, I'm going to pull you aside after the meeting. I'm not going to call you out in the middle of the meeting because it doesn't get me anywhere to shame you in front of everybody. There's no upside to that. Um, we have a no lock policy on the doors. You cannot lock your door. And we don't open it all the time, but we knock and we make sure you're in there. And if you don't answer, we're going to open it. So, and people aren't allowed to go in each other's rooms, but we want people to interact with each other. So we're trying to promote in a way of doing these things, certain things that we provide in the house for food or extra stuff just to try to make it, like there's an iMac on that they can use if they don't have internet or their parents won't pay for their phone. I've got a couple of extra phones I can give them if their parents are, if they don't have a phone. Just trying to create an atmosphere there where there's a sense of belonging, but also I'm following the rules, right? So at the top of my paperwork, when you come in and you sign the resident agreement, it says on the very top, the owners and operators and staff of St. Paul Sober Living may decide that your behavior or whatever you're doing is not working, and we may ask you to leave. It is not this list of rules under here that if you break one or three that you leave. You can read the rules that we have in this document, which are the general things. But if I was going to post every rule that was, don't be an asshole in the sober house, I'd have to wallpaper the walls with all the rules, and I want them to understand that it's a cumulative sort of effect, and it's a attitude more than it is a compliance thing. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to give a shit that you're in the house, right? You just have to impart to the rest of us that you care about it to the degree that you can. The earlier people, I've got some guys that are a little autistic and they seem to not care about stuff, but that's not necessarily true. So I hope some of this stuff has been helpful to you guys. If you have some comments or questions or ideas, I've got a million other little things that we do that try to contribute to this same thing. Last night at the house, there was the kid that lied about going to a meeting. His name is Grant. He's been there for over a year. And so the manager that lives there was saying to the group, you guys have a really good house. And that means it's not chaos. People are doing what they're supposed to do in general, and they're getting along. And I said to Grant, do you remember when it wasn't like that? Because you've been here for a year and you've been here when the house was crazy. It was just a bad moment for the group. And he said, yeah, yeah, yeah. There was people using and all kind. And I said, what do you think? What do you think the difference is? What can you name it? And he was like, yeah, no, I can't. And I think that's a really telling thing, is that there is no fix. Punishing people, or I've heard of operators fining people for not doing their dishes or their chore. In my opinion, that's ludicrous. I mean, I don't think that makes any sense. Granted, this is a $2,000 or $3,000 a month program, and I have enough staff to do the stuff I'm talking about. And I understand that and I have some traditional level sober houses that are $800 a month, and there's just a house manager. So there's a capacity issue there about what you're able to do. But within each framework, there are some things that are easy to do that create that sort of sense of, when people leave my program, I often ask them, I'm not going to debrief you, but I want to know what you think about the staff. And I said, do you think they gave a shit? And they'll always say, yeah, clearly you guys care. And I get people from other houses who tell me that the big difference is that they just sort of he's like, I don't know, it's just better here, and I think that's what it is. I think people are starved for inclusion and validation, because that's the opposite. When you get no validation, nobody asks you to go to anything. So you feel part of something, which is really valuable. And after feeling part of it for a while, you calm down and you're able to contribute. And I'll close it with this. It's the same reason why I tell my guys to go to the same meetings in AA for a while. Because if you go to the same ones for a while, the people that you see regularly become safe to you. They become less intimidating. You're more willing to talk to them. And very quickly after doing that, somebody's behind you who thinks you're safe, and they're going to tap you on the shoulder, and you're going to get a chance to turn around and be that person for someone else that's brand new at the meeting and doesn't want to talk to anybody. So it's based on that kind of theory. And I've just been doing this for 25 years, and all I think about is sober housing stuff, and I obsess about all this shit all the time. So if you if you guys ever want to talk about it, I'm absolutely available. And I'll make sure that my email is in the chat.
Thank you so much, Chris.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have
Uh,
any questions or things to add?
Well, I
I've got
just,
I
oh,
got two thoughts on that. One is it really boils down to Chris's comment about you have to care, or in my case, I have to pretend to care. Um, uh, and the other thing that I was going to ask Chris to talk about was he mentioned in Ohio about the barbecues that you do.
Oh yeah.
And I have been in a recovery residence with Randy Brower, Randy is to Michigan as Chris is to Minnesota. And so what he's done is he's had like kayaking trips and he brings people out and he has a softball team in the summertime. And that gets you to know the people that are in the house a little bit better if you have a social occasion to be out with them and screwing around for a little bit.
Yeah, we started this thing called the Sunday barbecue. This old timer and AA lady started it in her backyard, and then she did it a couple of times. But I took it and I turned it into this very sort of open AA-ish event that isn't really AA and is less intimidating because it's free food, it's a barbecue, you don't have to share. You can bring your dog or your kids or your parents. And we've been doing it for 20 years. And I underwrite it for the community. It's not necessarily a St. Paul sober living event, but it is. I just don't brand it. But it moves around to yards every Sunday for 3 months. All the Sundays in June, July, and August. There's a web page and a Facebook page called Sunday Barbecue Meeting, and you can host if you want. And I have about 100 chairs, those plastic Adirondack chairs and I have to replace 20 of them every year. And I have a bunch of those long white tables, and we don't necessarily move grills, but because most people have one, but sometimes we do, and coolers. And then there's a list of stuff to buy. And you basically host this barbecue. You pick somebody to do the trusted servant thing, and you stand up and you say, have some free food. We're going to circle at 6 o'clock. So we're going to circle up at 7, and all you got to do is introduce yourself if you don't want to. That's all you got to do. I'm Chris. I'm from Colorado. I just got here and I don't know anybody. And what I usually do is I try to get the whole group to say, if I'm at the barbecue, I'm not at all of them, and I say, how many of you have never been to one of these things before? And I said, if you go to a few of these this summer and you realize that this was really easy for you to be at and be participating in the sober community, then remember that that's what this was about. This was to try to make it easier for you to on ramp into the community and meet people. And that's crucial, right? Because if you interviewed people who have 2, 3, 4 years of sobriety and you said, tell me what mattered the most, it's not going to be their outpatient counselor. It's going to be their friends they met in the recovery community in every time. So we push on that. There's a sober softball league. I sponsor a couple of teams every year. We've won a lot of trophies. I have them all over my office. Um, each team is made up of a sober house or an outpatient or some group of sober guys that have some really dumb sober name on their t-shirts. And it's a great thing. It's really fun. And there was volleyball a few years that we've been doing that. Most of these things are funded by some outside source and not very expensive to run. The barbecue costs you about $150 to put on, and if you pass the basket, you get most of it back. So I underwrit the volleyball stuff. I bought the gear. It wasn't that expensive. There's a hockey thing here that you can do for free if you're in the sober community. There's a bike riding thing. One of the things, Jeff, that I keep hoping to happen with our affiliate, if MASH ever gets funded, is to give MASH all of that stuff, like centralize all that stuff under the affiliate so that it gets consistently put, because my volleyball thing kind of dies out if I don't have somebody willing to do the work all summer long.
Yeah.
For the barbecues, I pick a trusted servant and a chair mover every year, and I say, this is your service commitment for the summer, and you use one of my trucks, and you go move the chairs and the tables and the coolers to the next yard, and you pick them up and move them to the other. And there's a calendar for the barbecues, and I love to give anybody the blueprint for that thing. It's easy to do. It's not hard. Once you get it going, has its own momentum.
Well, you're saying yes. Let me make an ask. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, what we're trying to do is if these operator meetings are operator 101, I'm trying to build a 102 or a second year class. It's called Lessons Learned, and it's from experienced operators like yourself. And it's like, here's a little trick on how things are being done at Chris's place. And I'd have the same thing at Glennis's place. And so I could have the more experienced people like yourself to come in and give hints to the people that are just starting the journey of, I want to run a recovery residence.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you're asking me to be part of it. Of course I will.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We meet every other month, starting in January is our next meeting. And Kayla will
Yep, we
give
meet
you the
quarterly.
email address and all that stuff.
Okay. Did you want to say
Yep,
something?
that was one more thing I was going to bring up was our next, we decided on a different day and time to try for our lessons learned meeting. So our next one is actually going to be January 15th, the Thursday at 1 p.m. So we're going to try Thursday at 1 p.m., not after the operator meeting, because that tends to be a lot for
And
some
I'm
people.
assuming that's a Zoom, right?
Yes,
Yep,
just
Zoom
Zoom.
meeting.
Mhm.
So if you send it to me, I'll put it in my calendar.
Yep, I will send it out to everyone. We'll send a post-meeting follow-up after every one of these meetings to just kind of cover everything we went through. So, did anyone have more questions for Chris or anything to add? Stacy, I saw your hand was up at one point.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Chris, thank you so much for providing the best practice tips. Very helpful because sometimes we do assume that, individuals already know how to clean a bathroom or clean a kitchen, and I'm guilty of that because, you assume these things, right? And so thank you so much for sharing that because I'm definitely going to take that back to the homes so that we can kind of revamp how we do the chores inside of the home because that is huge. We want to remove some of the stigma, the shame and guilt behind, some of these things, especially the stigma. I love the room search idea as well. Realizing that some of our guys may have come from prison systems or the judicial system,
Yeah.
and just trying to have some normalcy and home life feel for them, which is something that they may not ever had in their lives. So thank you so much for all of your tips. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I also agree that Chris definitely made a lot of very valid points. And for those that are still on the fence on is what he's saying valid or not, especially when it comes to always wanting to use the stick versus the carrot, I can also kind of give statistics on my organization. And out of the 13 locations that Recovery Road has, I find that my house managers that are constantly looking for problems and constantly looking to catch someone doing something wrong seem to always be having a corrosive environment, and they're always trying to play catch up on trying to get a good positive culture built. But I find that my houses that have managers that are always family culture based, and they're not always looking for the problem, but they're always looking to create the vibe that they want to have in the house, seem to gather people and corral people to then get into that same vibe of inclusion and of positive peer pressure. And it's almost like it's an intangible, magical thing that happens, that the lack of the punishment, but having that desire and that vibe of, well, this is how we want it to be, it is magically developed to be what they want it to be. So Chris was dead on. And yeah, I always had to tell myself not to go stick based, but
Mhm.
go on based on what you want to manifest. And it just works every single time.
We had a manager that was kind of doing that, and sneaking around to do the sort of get you, caught you thing. is a little bit more about the manager than it is about the residents, you know? And so when I have clients who I just did this one, and Jeff mentioned in New York, these guys opened this very expensive sober house in the Upper East Side of New York City. They're both sober. One of them worked at another sober house company. They were thrilled to do it. They're two brothers. They were really committed. And I said, I can tell you guys 150,000 different things, but the most effective thing I can do is once you pick your house manager, send him out to hang out with me for a week and just have him follow me around. And so he gets to see the way that we talk to people and the way that we do what you were bringing up. The house managers are crucial, and that's why I'd like, in our affiliate, we do some manager training. Jeff, I'm sure you probably do at yours. I mean, I think a lot of our affiliates are doing some kind of manager training.
Yes.
And it's a difficult thing because typically in our case, these managers are somebody with less than 2 years. They have the time. Maybe they have a part-time job or they're in school. Maybe they have a full-time job and a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they're only at the house meeting. And it's hard to get buy-in from a house manager who's going to really actually spend a lot of time trying to work with these individuals. And then sometimes we have over managers that are just sober coaching everyone. And you want something kind of down the middle. But training the manager is one of the most effective things I do for my consulting clients is trying to teach the manager to have that attitude and to have some structure, but don't go looking to catch everybody. You'll make yourself crazy. And they'll resent you for it.
I catch you doing something right.
Yeah.
Hi, Crystal with A Mother's Touch. Chris, thank you so very much for sharing your lessons learned and how to, some of the protocols that you have. I really appreciate hearing having during the community meeting, once the individual do their check-in about their week, having the other residents say, okay, what are you noticing? Because yeah, recovery says we are each other eyes and ears as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really appreciate that because it will help the group to not only see what the person is not doing, but it would also allow for the kudo, if you will, for the great, progress and things like that too. So I really appreciate that. I guess for me, what I have to wrap my mind around is I understand why. I heard you very clearly, but with the not locking the bedroom door, I have moms and children,
Mm-hmm.
moms with a child. And so, but when I heard it, I'm thinking, because sometimes if they losing the keys, that's more money that the cyclical effect of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I am going to consider that, you know, because it does get costly,
There are a lot of options for keyless entry now that used to
yeah.
be. I started in 2001 and I had keyless keypads on my doors and I had to buy one every 3 months. I couldn't afford them. They were they're nothing now. And
Mhm.
you put one on the door and if you need it for a mother and children and or women and children housing and then the code. They can have multiple codes, so you always have access. And no matter what her code is, you have your own. And but that open door thing, and that's a policy. I think is it in the standards, Jeff? I can't remember.
It is. Yeah, you're not
Okay,
supposed to have
so
locked doors.
there's an operator here that opened a 24 bed house. He renovated a fourplex into it, with the room after room after room and the bathroom down the hall, and you had to bring your stuff down the hall to the bathroom. But you got your own room. So they filled up. But you could come in the side door, the back door, the front door, and you could go up to your room and lock the door and nobody knew you were there. Right? I had two former clients of mine die in that house because they didn't know where they were. And the locked door thing is just it's dangerous. But I understand, so you could find some, middle ground there and say, okay, you can have a lock, but I have a key or a code.
Mhm.
It's interesting when you're dealing with moms with children or dads with children. And Ginger Stevens, I think, might be on the line from Charlevoix. She does the moms with kids. And there's going to be a NAR, the national level group is going to be putting something together, Crystal, for operators of parents with kids homes.
Okay,
Cool.
thanks.
Any question is fair.
I actually just wanted to say I love hearing you, Chris. I just listened to you the other day at the NARC meeting also. Um, and I kind of blame you for the event I have coming up because you talk so much about community and doing things together. And so we're actually doing a recovery housing community dinner next week for all the recovery housing in Kalamazoo and some of our outlying sites. Um, like every time I hear you talk, it's like that community, that community, that community. And I was like, okay, we're gonna take the plunge and do this. So hoping to
That's
go.
great, man. I think it's so important, and there are ways to do it that don't cost that much, and and you can't do it every day, but you can pull it off. And this barbecue thing, it took a minute for us to get it going, and I put a lot of work into getting it momentum and got the Facebook page and the way to make it. And now it's like I get Facebook messages every Saturday. Where's the barbecue? Where's the barbecue? And I'm like, it's on the page. Um, we had 200 people at one of them last year. I have one house that has a huge yard, and so we do the first one there and the last one there of the season. Anybody else? Oh, I will tell you one of the new things, and I know that this is an issue. It's sort of a the Narcan thing, to have it in the houses and keeping people aware of where it is and what, remind them that it's there. And, not that they're going to see somebody overdose and go, oh, yeah, I know where it is. They might be like, oh, why is that guy's door closed so much? It might lead you to more of an awareness. So what we did was we took the Narcan and we put it in those little metal boxes that are like with the cross on them, like what do you call it? A kit,
Medical Red Cross kit.
like a first aid kit.
Yeah.
And it's mounted by the thermostat in every house because everyone can find the thermostat. Everyone knows where to look, right? And then at the house meetings, and the house manager has that book of things he's supposed to ask everybody, and randomly he'll say, "Hey, where's the Narcan?" And everyone will be like, "God, it's over there," because we ask all the time. It's just another idea that, I tried to put it in a place where people could find it if they needed it. So luckily, we have this organization that gives all of us sober houses. Now it's pretty easy to get.
It's
I
a
have a
great
question.
idea keeping it by the thermostat.
That was me. Um, what would your suggestion be for a resident that is still really early in recovery and hasn't been at one of your houses long, but is restless and maybe like taking on too much? Like, what are your suggestions to maybe help somebody that doesn't know how to sit still yet?
I'm a big fan of routine. So if you're not an outpatient, I was just talking to my staff about this earlier because our young I'm in Hazelden's world. They have three centers all around us and they give me a lot of people, but they want them all in outpatient. That's their thing. So it's like daycare for 6 or 8 hours a day, right? So that serves us really well in a way. They don't love it, but they go. I would say routine. Restlessness, I mean, let me tell you, I was in this sober house in LA because I was told it was all musicians and I'm a guitar player. And I went to this place and it was the bunch of the biggest, whiniest rich kids you'd ever want to hang out with. And it was so hard to engage. And I was so restless all the time. I felt like I was still withdrawing because I shot heroin for the whole decade of the 90s. And so at the end of the 90s, I was trying to come off. And I would say that that's normal. One is the restlessness. I think a lot of people would probably say, why don't you go work out, which is sort of the last thing a lot of people want to do. But I would say routine. I would say, let's try this. Let's try three things every day that you do, no matter what. You get up and you do them. Because I think the restlessness goes away when you're busy, right? And when you're function and I take guys who have nothing, no job, no IOP, and they're sitting around the house. Like today, I went and I said, JT, what are you doing? He's like, nothing. I was like, get in the truck. You're gonna help me move snow today. And he was like, he was game, right? He didn't have any gloves, but he helped me. I had to go snowblow at three different locations today because we got a shit ton of snow last night. Um, but I would say routine. You know, you're not going to get some kid who's coming off of whatever to read a book, right? You've got to come up with something else. And if you have staff doing stuff, maybe they can tag along. I mean, you just need something to do, right? And you can't go to four meetings a day. So,
Right.
yeah, I would say try to come up with things that are available to do, right? Okay, come to Sam's Club with me. I got to go buy a shit ton of toilet paper or whatever it is, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also find that a lot with some, well, actually, it seems like I get the two extremes in the populations. Either you have people that want to do absolutely nothing, or you want people that want to stay up 24 hours a day and constantly do. And I usually, depending on what audience I'm dealing with, I like to practice moderation, which means there's a time in the day where work your butt off, get things done, but then there needs to be moments of rest and reflection. And then the other audience is I tell them, yes, everything on your to-do list is important, but you must live life as a marathon and just take bite-sized pieces. So do this, plan it out. You do a little bit every day.
Good advice.
Mhm.
I know from myself as you know when I was early in recovery, I was so uncomfortable and so restless. I drove my friends crazy of like, look, can we do something? Can we do something? Can we do something? And sleep was hard, and it's really impossible to get somebody to radically change their sleep schedule overnight. It takes a while, right? So, um, but I would also, Pamela, I would also say to the other residents who have and I always do this to my people who've been there a long time. I'm like, you've been here a year. And if I don't hear that you're helping the new guy, you're in trouble because that's part of your job, right? Is to, okay, dude, come with me, right? And go to this meeting with me or do something with me, or just come to the grocery store with me or whatever.
We need to invent some adult playgrounds. Somewhere someone can go. Like they always have those little
Right.
jumpy trampoline places for kids. They have all these playgrounds around for kids. They need that for adults too, one of Laos do.
It's called the
Not everyone wants
gym.
to go to the gym. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's
I was
not
just gonna
fun
say it's
though.
called the
You
gym.
need to go somewhere fun. You need to jump around and play. People just need to play.
Right.
That's one.
And the treatment all you get is a picnic table and an ashtray, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Dave and Buster's is getting more and more popular.
So expensive though. Dave and Buster's is expensive.
Yes.
But well, thank you so much, Chris. I think everyone really enjoyed hearing you speak, and we would definitely really love to have you on the Lessons Learned meeting. Again, it's going to be the 15th of January at 1 p.m. And we'll definitely maybe play around with that date if that one doesn't work for people. But there was a lot of different days and times that worked for people. So I think we'll just kind of try out maybe some to see what one sticks, what one works the best. But the next one's going to be in January and then quarterly after that. So we hope to see you guys there.
Well, feel free to send me an email if you guys want on anything. I'm my new thing is trying to figure out how to get these under 25, these 19-year-old guys to come out of their room. I literally went upstairs to this kid yesterday and I said, "Hey, will you come with me to the other house? I got to go pick up a dresser and move it." And he was like, "Yeah, no." He just no. And I was like, "Thanks, Grant. Appreciate it." And that's some of the clients. So but send me an email if you want. I'll make myself available. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Ken.
I can't wait to get you in talking to the Glennises and the Prestons and the people here in Michigan that have your level of expertise, which is way, way, way beyond mine. And I love the idea of having some training for managers. And I talked to Dave Sheridan about that yesterday. They're going to be trying to do something with that at the NAR level.
And you know what, Jeff, I've been bugging Dave too, is that part of the certification process for any house through any affiliate, you've got to be able to somehow check to see if they're doing any of this stuff. Are they treating people well?
Yeah.
Because you can't figure it's not something you can look and see if they have that at their house. It's hard to, but if we train their managers, then they can be, even if the operator doesn't care at all.
Yeah, the idea is to bring the knowledge level that you've learned, and people like Preston and other people have been on here for 20 years, bring that skill set, that knowledge base to the guys that are just, I just been running this up for 6 months and I'm lost.
Right. I get a lot of those calls. I'm in the weeds, man. I open too many houses too fast and it's out of control.
Go look, go ask Google for help on that. There's nothing out there.
That's true. Well,
all right.
All right,
well,
guys.
Unless anybody else has any questions of Chris, we'll let everybody go. And if anybody needs to know what my shoe size is or my sweater size for Christmas presents, let Kayla know and she can let you know. Okay.
Yeah, I'll forward that along.
And I'm probably going to get the same thing I got from last year. Everybody.
Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Great New Year.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.